Hello everyone and welcome to the World Class Stand podcast. Our special guest today is Dave Jones, but before we get into today's episode, guys, Steve, can you tell us a little bit more about our World Class Club?
Yep, quick plug here. We've got two tiers. First tier is $2.99, that is ad-free episodes and early release episodes in our back catalogue. And second tier then is 99p, and that is early release episodes. Please do consider it. It helps us keep the show going.
Yeah, remember to like and subscribe. We'll get back to you.
Hello everyone and welcome to the World Class Stand podcast. Our special guest today is Dave Jones. Dave, thanks for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
And we're here today at the golf course. Lovely scenery here. But one of the first questions we like to ask our guests is
get straight into it. Then,
is it like how did you get into football? So what's your first memories of kicking a football, or back when you was growing up?
I think my mother said I came out kicking, so when I was born. I played for the school team, and then that progressed on to the local boys club, which was a place just outside of Liverpool called Woolton Village, and I played there.
Right.
And then I got picked up by Liverpool at 13.
Right.
And I went through on a Tuesday and Thursday night to Liverpool till I was 14, 15 years of age. And then an Everton scout spotted me playing for the boys club, asked me would I go through to Everton on a Tuesday and Thursday, and being an Evertonian.
Right, okay,
I said, yeah, I'm going to go through.
I was about to ask if you were red or a blue.
No, blue.
Yeah.
So I went there, and then when I left school, I didn't go through the normal scholarship process. I went to work at a place that my dad did some finances for, which was a apprentice motor mechanic.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I was there for a year, from 16 to 17, and then basically 2 days a week I should have gone to college to do the City and Girls, and I didn't go to college. I went training with full time at Everton, and on my 17th birthday they signed me pro. So I left the job, and my dad thought they were calling me in to get rid of me.
Oh, right.
But he didn't know. They'd already warned me about not going to college.
Okay.
And the stupid thing is I passed the exams as well.
Oh, really?
So I didn't think anyone would find out, but once they told me I was going to sign pro for it, there was no...
What was that feeling like, actually putting pen to paper for a big club?
Well, 1 minute you're training, with your mates and playing for your local team, and then all of a sudden I'm standing on Gladys Street supporting Everton and everything else, and then the next thing I'm running out with them. And at such a young age, it was... And all my family are blue.
Yeah.
Except my daughter now, she's a red, because she fancied Michael Owen when he played.
Oh, okay.
All my wife's family, because I went to school with my wife Anne, they're all blue. So it was quite a big thing for me, really. It's one of the reasons I turned them down as well. When I got offered the job there once.
Well, you didn't want
to... No, I think it caused too many problems. I mean, when I was a manager of Southampton and we played them, and they were fighting relegation, all the family were telling me, you can't beat us, you can't beat us. And we won 2-0 at home at the Dell, and they never spoke to me for weeks.
Oh, really? Wow.
But thankfully they stayed up, so that's the problem.
Who was your first game for Everton, and what's your debut against?
Leicester. I made my debut as a substitute against Leicester at home. In the last 5 minutes of the game, they put me as right winger, and I was a centre half or full back when I made it. But then a few months later, I made my debut at Leicester away, and they had a winger, international winger who wore tights. One of the very first players to ever wear tights.
That must have been rare for back then, right?
Well, he was. There was all sorts of rumours why he wore the tights. But,
he was just freezing, wasn't he?
And I remember the manager saying to me before I went out that if he came off the pitch and his tights weren't laddered, I wouldn't kick another ball. So the first tackle was round about neck high all over.
Brilliant.
So I made my debut, and then that was probably halfway through the season, and then over that first period, I sort of played the odd game, substitute here, and I made about 10 appearances that season. And then the following season, I never looked back. I got in. Yeah, I got in because of injuries.
Yeah,
that's how I got in, and I was always remember the youth coach telling me, once you get in, don't let anyone else take the shirt, because now you're going to have another 1,000 chasing your shirt. Like, so
Yeah.
it's easy to get there. It's harder to stay there. And I was like determined. And being an Evertonian and playing there was like, dream come true.
Must be immense, to play for club you support. I
think it's important as well. I think it's important to the fans. If you're, every club I've been at, if you play a homegrown player, the affinity with the fans seems to be a stronger bond.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's what it was. And at the time, when I played, there was quite a few in the team. The likes of Mick Lyons and people like this that had come through the ranks. So it was, Kevin Ratcliffe was there. He was my boots. He was my apprentice. Like, so
really,
there's little things like that were fantastic.
Yeah. Who else was in the squad around about that time?
In my squad, you had the likes of Bob Latchford, who was a big centre forward, scored lots of goals. Then you would have like Mick Lyons. There was a lad called Mark Higgins who broke in. Local lad, came through the ranks. George Wood was in goal, Big Woody.
Yeah. He was ex-Cardiff City coach as well, wasn't he?
Cardiff City. When I went as manager, he was the goalkeeping coach.
He was there at the time,
yeah. So, a lad called Andy King, sadly he's passed away now.
Yeah.
So a lot of internationals, Martin Dobson, they were all at that time when I was playing, and I was an England youth international and under 21 international. Everton had an array of, they had Kevin Ratcliffe, who was with the Welsh.
Yeah.
We had myself and Mark Higgins with England, Mick Lyons, England, and we had the Scottish centre half also. So there's so many defenders that were like
a British
different nationalities. It was really good. And it was just a great time to break through for me. As I said, one minute and I'm watching them, the next thing I'm running out with them.
I was going to say, you did manage to get a goal for Everton as well.
Swindon in the Cup got us through to the semi-finals of the League Cup.
What was that feeling? Obviously, scoring for your boy club, that got it. And
I can remember it. I remember picking the ball up at the halfway line and running. And I cut inside and I was looking for a pass and there was no one there to pass. So I fancied shooting. I took a little dip and went over the goalkeeper and I didn't know what to do. I just wanted to run in the crowd and in the Gladys Street and jump in because all my family were there and everything else.
Yeah.
So
special moment.
Yeah. And then because then I was a good defender. When you get players that are the elite end. I was your 7, 8 out of 10 every week. I'd never be a 5 or a 6. I'd always be a 7 or an 8. And the odd occasion you might get a 9 or something like that. But mostly as a defender, I was
consistent.
What you call steady Eddie. Reliable. I was a good passer. I was quick. I was strong. So for me to go over the halfway line, I need a compass to get back or something like that. I was the only one who stayed back. So, but no, I loved it. I've had a great career and football's always been a part of it. So and I went to school with my wife and I met her and then we got married. The club said to me, get married quite young, settle you down.
Right.
Yeah. Is that something like what you look for when you're looking for players, characters and things? People are more family.
Oh, listen, if I had got my I'd have had a whale of a time, long black hair, and when I first signed my pro contract, went out and bought a white suit. I thought it was the bee's knees. So that was the best advice. As it gave me, I think was to settle down and.
It's a great club as well, Everton, isn't it? It's very community driven.
It's still one of the biggest. It's one of the 3 in the Premiership now.
Yeah.
Is it coined the People's Club? Is that right?
Well, they done us a solid, didn't they? Let us use a room.
School of Science, it's called.
Yeah.
That's what it is because the players they've had there. Ball, Harvey, and Kendall is renowned midfield that should have played in the England squad. It was only Alan Ball and Colin and Howard made the odd appearance, but them 3 at that time were. To watch them, and up front, Big Joe Royal. So the tradition at the football club was phenomenal. And even when you go back now and you watch them or whatever, you get invited back. it's like a long lost child coming back. They look after you great. They make sure. And when you move into the new stadium now, it's going to be unbelievable.
I was going to ask about that. What's your? It looks beautiful, that stadium.
Oh yeah, listen, it's on the waterfront. It's down by the docks. It's the same with Cardiff. When people say, "No, we can't leave Ninian." It's big old stadium, and then when we moved, everyone loved it.
Yeah.
And I think it's done its time. It's going to be sad. I'm going to the last game.
Yeah.
Ironically, it's against Southampton as well. I don't think they've realised that I actually managed Southampton, so I don't know what reception I'm going to get from that end, but should be okay because I did quite well there. So
have you gone back and done the lounges at Everton?
I've done Everton a few times. Yeah, I did Man United this year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That was a shocking. I don't really watch paint dry. Really, Man United was shocking.
Yeah,
absolutely shocking. But no, it's nice to go back, and there's a couple of ex-players that do the lounges every week, that I played with. So it's nice to see them and everything else. It's because I'm not really a supporter, but I do support Everton.
Yeah.
I live here in the Wolverhampton area. People always say to me, "Oh, did you go to the Wolves game?" No. Why you? No, I managed them. I was like custodian for that length of time.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I'll support them and I look for the result. But Everton was my team.
Yeah.
Kid.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So after Everton, then how did that come to the end? And did you move?
You moved to Coventry.
Moved to Coventry.
They got an offer. They got an offer from Coventry. And Coventry were in the top flight then. And it was too big an offer to turn down. It's £300,000 then. So if you look back, and equate it now, it's
good money out.
Be good money for them. And I had a choice. It was either Coventry or Ipswich. And Ipswich was too far.
As you say, it's round the corner, isn't it? Again?
Well, they didn't have all the motorways built in, the late 70s. So
That's true, yeah.
I just thought, well, Coventry, and then I went, and it was a nightmare for me, really.
Yeah, you picked up the knee injury, is that right?
Yeah, well, the manager at the time, Gordon Milne, they'd promised me the earth. I was going to play centre half and everything else, and they signed another lad from Bristol City, and we were going to be the back, the two centre backs. I never left Everton.
Yeah.
I only left Everton because they wanted me to play full back. I was either right back or left back. I was always going to play.
Yeah.
Or I was on the fringe of a full cap, England cap, and I wanted to play in a position which was centre back. And I went there and fell out with the manager, and did the stupid thing that when I look back, I'm going to show him I'm not going to play. I'll dig in my heels and I'll show him. And I'm sitting in the stand, and I remember my wife saying to me once, "Why are you sitting here?" I'm showing him down there like I'm not playing. She said, "Yeah, but why are you sitting here?" He says, "You can't lace your boots." And I was like, So when I became manager, I used to say to players, "You've only got two options: play well to get in the team, play well to move."
Yeah.
Where I was like, I'm not going to play. I'm going to be, I'll show him. He's not going to tell me what to do. And then when I did come back, unfortunately, someone took me out and done my knee.
Who was, you say you're close to getting a cap. Who was the kind of competition around that time in the England setup?
There was loads. I mean, when I played for the England youth and under-21 side, I'll give you a taste of the people I was with. I mean, I played alongside Brian Robson. Yeah. Me and him were centre-backs. And then our covers was the Futcher twins. Right. So, and then in midfield was Ray Wilkins, Glenn Hoddle.
Wow, good.
Alan Kirbishley. Left wing was a lad called Peter Barnes. Up front was Tommy Langley. They had an unbelievable team. Yeah. When I broke into the England youth squad, and there was me and another lad called Neil Robinson from Everton. We broke in, and all of a sudden I'm with Ray Wilkins, who'd already played like 100 games for Chelsea and everything else. Every single player that played in the youth team was in the first team.
Is that progression?
Well, they were already there. Yeah. So when we played, the team basically knew what to do. It was like, and being from the north, a lot of the players were from down south. A lot of them, Hoddles and all that. So all of a sudden, and with Brian Robson, who was at West Brom at that time, and all that. So it was for us to go down there and be part of the England squad was just magic. We actually played against Wales as well. We played against Wales under 21 squad. I think it was the first year that they actually set up the under 21s.
Yeah, because they used to have the Home Nations tournament, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Where they used to play, and
I think one of the first games was against Wales. And then I remember Wales asking me, because of my name, Jones, have I got Welsh blood in me? Yes.
Must have,
my dad, because my dad's family were from Welshpool.
Right, okay.
But my dad said, no, you're English, you're going to play for England.
Okay.
So...
Would you
we had
to play alongside like Ratcliffe at Wales? Would that have been tempted for you?
Kevin was a couple of years younger than me. He was a few years younger than me, and he was coming through at Everton and everything else. And so, you know, Kevin was a top player at Everton. Like, you know, he was a top player international. So, no, I never. I've got to be honest. No, I never. Play for Wales. I was going to play for England. I think my dad at the time said, you know, every English cap, one English cap is worth 10 for Wales.
Well, we had Dean Windass on. We had Steve will agree with that.
I'm English.
Steve's English. He's smiling at that.
I can never understand, because I can't understand how Jones is a Welsh name, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
By all accounts, there's no J in the Welsh alphabet, so...
That's true.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Unless I'm at Owens. I was Owens in Hong Kong. When I played in Hong Kong, that was my name, Daiwai Owens. So it was a little bit of Welsh in the Daiwai Owens. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the things I was going to ask you. Hong Kong, moving like, you know, early 80s, late 70s. What was that like? That was an experience, because go and play over there. Like,
when I came back from my injury, I'd done my cruise shit at Coventry. I came back playing. I never had an operation. I was quite strong leg, the specialist said, and he said I'll get away with it. So I had clubs. My contract was coming up at Coventry, and I was looking around and what shall I do? And there was other clubs that wanted me. And then I did my rehab in Hong Kong. I went over there for 3 months.
Okay.
Because the season finished here and there's starts. So basically the team I played for, the watch company Seco, they had been doing a pre-season at Coventry.
Okay.
And of course I'd played a couple of games against them, coming back from fitness and everything else. And then I got a phone call out the blue just to say, would I like to go and play in Hong Kong? And I'd love to say I went for the culture and the experience. I didn't. They offered me too much money. I couldn't turn it down.
Was there a lot of money that time in over that?
For
Yeah.
them.
We talking double or like 50% extra or?
From my wage, it's probably 3 times.
Oh, really? Okay.
It seems like there's lots of countries that pop up every now and again with a boatload of cash.
Well, it was the fair start, because some of the players that went over there. I mean, Alan Ball was over there. He was coming to the end of his career. You know, a bit like America. You know, with the Messis and Alan Ball was, a World Cup winner, and he was playing over there. And Bobby Moore managed the team over there.
Okay.
So the people who were taking over, and the team I played with 3 Dutch World Cup winners.
Well,
De Jong and Nanninga.
Okay.
So I played with them. So it was like cigar time at the back. It was just so easy, but I loved it.
Yeah.
My wife, I went back home, and when I got the phone call and I'd agreed to sign, and I went back home and I said to my wife, I found a club. And she said, where are we going? And I went, she thought we were going down the road or something, like Hong Kong. And she went, what do you mean Hong Kong? I said, I'm going to sign for Hong Kong. And we had 2 young children then, 6 and 2, I think. And she said, well, when are you going? I said, Thursday. This was like on a Friday. You sell up and I'll see you in 3 months. And she came over with my sister 3 months later.
Yeah, that must have been,
listen, I loved every minute of it. And then I came back because the grounds were like playing on concrete. I travelled all over Asia because the team I played for had the following of millions. To get to see the team play, they couldn't come to the island, Hong Kong, so we used to travel all over China, and you'd have 100,000 people coming to watch you.
Wow,
that's crazy.
And you'd be kicking off like at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning. so they could go to see you play before you went to work.
Oh, really?
God.
But they had a following of millions.
God.
Yeah.
Any free watches?
Seiko?
Any
I
Seikos?
think they made the straps for Seiko.
Okay.
But the team, the brother of my boss was called KP Wong, CP Wong, and the brother was KP Wong, and he had Bolivar, which is also a watch company.
Right.
Okay.
So Seiko and Bolivar were the top two teams. We did a lot of battle. I was there for just on 3 years, never lost a game.
Oh, really?
How many games did you actually play over there? Do you roughly?
Well,
so
it
a long
would
time
have been,
ago,
I don't
but-
know, if you said it was 40 plus games a season.
Well,
So I was there
so you
for
played
2
full seasons because there's not
Yeah.
much online about your time over there. But
No,
yeah.
it wasn't much to write about really, but we won everything.
Any goals? A few goals?
Yeah, could score more goals.
Yeah.
I was bigger than all the Chinese guys at the time.
That's true, yeah.
They used to bite you on the shoulder just to let you know you were there. But no, I loved it. It was, and it was a good life as well, you know, because we've trained 8 o'clock in the morning because of the humidity, and we finished by 10. And then I'd be at the beach with the wife and the kids and stuff like that all day. And it was just a different way of life.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And then I came back, didn't know what I was going to do. And then my old Everton manager, Gordon Lee, asked me to help him out at Preston. And I said, yeah, I'll help you out for a couple of games and all that. And ended up staying 2 years. And and I played with my brother there as well. Played with my brother, Mark.
Yeah, and you scored a goal for Preston as well, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I did see that on the stat, yeah.
Yeah, my brother scored goal of the season there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on. Yeah, I think he was clearing it.
So you didn't come back because you had an offer, your contract
No, I
finished,
came back
and you just...
because my contract wasn't up. They wanted,
right.
well, it was up, but they wanted to re-sign me. But my knee was starting to ache, and I'd saw a specialist, and he said, "Look, if you continue to play on the hard grounds, you're going to end up in a wheelchair, basically, in 2 years' time." And he said, "It's best to come back." And then I went to Preston, played a couple of years, and then the last game of the season, I rotated and sort of snapped a little bit, and I thought, no, time to pack up.
Oh, no. How old were you then, Dave?
I'd have been just past 30 odd then, I think.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you kind of struggled with your knee most of your career then, really, after the injury.
No, I didn't struggle with it. It
Yeah.
was only when I signed, when I was at Coventry and I done my knee, I didn't have any problems with it then. It wasn't that wouldn't stop me from playing. As I said, I went for the money.
Yeah.
That's what it was too good an offer for us to turn down, and I was looking further down the line to think, well, how long would it take me to to earn that?
It's probably the right decision there, really, isn't it?
So 3
Think about
years,
it,
you earned, what,
3
9 years worth of salary, probably?
It would have been close to that, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
plus your bonuses and stuff like that, winning things and
Watches.
everything else.
Yeah.
But as I said, and at the time you were allowed 5 foreign players to play.
Right.
So there was me, and I played with a lad called Jimmy Hagan, who I played with at Coventry, who was an Irishman. So it was me and Jimmy, and then the 3 Dutch guys. I think we had about 8 foreigners in the team. But we also had 2 nationalised, 2 Scottish boys who changed their nationality to to Hong Kong. So basically, we were playing 7
Right. Okay.
Europeans.
Yeah, 5 official, but yeah.
Yeah, and we had the Chinese captain, the Chinese winger. So it was like
Yeah. Just
it was just good. It was a good life. I mean, we can't complain. And after my wife had settled in and found out what they were like, it was the Chinese people. They were fantastic with us. Really looked after us. Yeah.
Been back since?
No, never been
gone.
back. I'd love to go back. I've been China, but I would love to go back. We probably left the year that they were taking back the island.
Right, okay.
But I applied for the national job there once.
Okay.
Yeah, but they gave it to a Chinese guy. So I think if it's still been under the British
Yeah.
yeah.
flag, I think
You may have had a shout, yeah.
the grounds and everything else were brilliant. I mean, as I said, we used to travel once a month, go away for a week. So we go to different parts of the world. When I say the world, China and all around that area, Asia, to get your fans to see you.
Yeah.
And they turn out in the hundreds of thousands. I remember going to one game where they had all you could hear was bells. There must have been 100,000 bikes, and just our vehicle,
Like a bike bell.
Yeah, just thousands. And I remember saying to the guy, "How do you know which is your bike?"
It's true,
And he went, "Well," he said, "you can come with a new one and go with the old one, or you come with the old one and go with no one bothers." And all the bikes were the same. And I also remember that in the crowd, you never saw, because of their culture, you were either a collar worker or low-end worker. So you had a blue shirt, grey shirt, or a white shirt. And you would never see like a blue shirt in amongst the whites or whatever. You look around, it was quite eerie to see. And cutting the grass with scissors. Be 1,000 people on the pitch cutting the grass.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Great. I mean, that's when we went into deep China. But no, I travelled the world. I did like it. I didn't like the aircrafts as much because they all had different coloured seats and all sorts. I think they were just made up,
Cobbled together,
So that was the only thing. But no, I made some good friends there as well.
Yeah, sounds like a great experience.
Guy pedaling in the front, like.
Yeah. And as I said, then I came back and I played at Preston, and then I retired as I thought I was going to retire as a player, and then Southport, who were just in the conference, what you call a conference now.
Okay.
They asked me to go through and play for them as a player coach. And I did that for a couple of years. And then we moved on. We were successful there, and then I went off to Mossley in the non-league.
Was that as a player coach as well?
Yeah.
It was a bigger thing back then, wasn't it?
Yeah. And again, it was easier for me to play. And that's not degrading. I just found it easy to play. I'd organise my back four and say, right, wherever I am, make sure you're just in front of me and we'll catch everybody offside. And that's what we used to do. And then I went to Morecambe.
Okay.
So the three non-league grounds I played at and I coached at, I never realised, because I never really wanted to be, I never thought about being a manager. I got the bug for it. And then I think because I was successful, the three clubs I was at, I think that gave me the bug.
What made you get that bug? Do you think you were seeing like some players' best attributes and just sort of use them to the full potential?
No, I just, probably the job I was doing, I didn't really enjoy. I only went into it because then you wanted to work, and then I got the bug, and then I got a call from Walsall to go down, and they wanted me to be academy coach. So I agreed, went down there, and the manager said, I want to take you as academy coach. So I had one of them big old Motorola.
Yeah.
So phone work and handed in my notice. Phoned my wife and said, I'm going to take, the Walsall Academy job. And she said, great, it's what you wanted to do. And I left Walsall and I got just about 200 yards from my house, and the manager phoned me up and said he can't give me the job now.
Oh, no.
The chairman's told me he's got to give it to the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper that was retiring.
Oh, get in.
Wow.
So I thought, Jesus Christ. So one minute I've got a job and then I haven't got a job, and pulled on the drive, and then the phone went, and it was Stockport.
Right.
And the lad that played with Mark Higgins at Everton, his father was a director at Stockport, and he said, will you come and have an interview for the academy coach? So I said, well, yeah. So I turned the car. I didn't even went in else. I turned the car around and went back down to Stockport.
God, that was good timing, wasn't it?
And then,
it's like news travels fast otherwise.
And then I played under a guy. I managed under a guy called Danny Bagara, Uruguayan, and I was youth coach for about 5 months, and then he pulled me in and said, "Look, I want you to be the first team coach." I I wasn't really a youth team coach. I got frustrated with the youngsters a little bit, because they couldn't
Do what you wanted them.
Yeah. And I think he saw that, so he put me with the first team, and I really enjoyed it. And I was under him for 3.5 years as his assistant. And we had like great time. Went to Wembley 2 or 3 times in the LDV, whatever it was called then. And
Yeah.
I mean, we got promotion, 2 promotions, and it was brilliant. And I learned an awful lot off Danny.
Yeah.
But I learned more what not to do than to do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when I got the opportunity to take over, I was there for that half a season because he got sacked in the Christmas time. I got promoted the following season. I was manager there for about 2 years, just over 2 years, and I could have fell in a bucket of crap and come up smelling the roses. Everything I touched just turned to gold.
What was that like stepping up? Because you see it a lot sometimes where assistant managers take over clubs when the manager's left. Sometimes there's a bit of a transition of, going from the guy you maybe have a bit of a joke with to be.
But you got to remember that they were sort of training me up to take over from Danny.
Right, so
because Danny was going to move upstairs and become sporting director, so they were already teaching me, or I was in the training program, as he called it, to become the next manager at the club. That was the step
Right.
up.
Okay, so
I was probably better prepared. And the number 2 that I had with me was also there.
right.
Was a guy called John Sainty, who's passed away now last year. He was a great number 2 to have for me because I was a young, up and coming, head coach, manager, whatever you want to call it. So he calmed me down a little bit. At first year, I wanted to fight the world if something like that, because you want to do well.
Yeah.
Every little thing is.
He used to just say to me, "Look, just take a step back, and then come in after half an hour and then speak to them, or speak to them tomorrow. If you lost the game, you're fuming." So he sort of taught me to not best to get it off your chest, but do it the following day, rather than straight afterwards, because you're going to say something that you're going to regret.
Was the heat of the moment, isn't it? You want to win so bad.
Yeah,
you're going to be,
and and a lot of people always labelled me that I had no passion on the touchline. Well, I had plenty of passion. Believe me, what I didn't have, I didn't have much emotion. Because I was watching the game and everything else, but passion, I had plenty of that.
That came up in Michael Chopper's podcast, didn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think around derbies and things, there was a few like things when playing Swansea, you play it down maybe a little bit. But there's different ways to approach derbies, isn't there? So
when you say played it down, it all depends how you thought I was playing it down.
Staying calm.
Yeah,
but it was always about, lots of players go out and play the occasion.
Yeah.
I wanted them to play the game. And I'd played in big derbies, Everton, Liverpool, you can't get a bigger derby. So I knew sometimes you went out and I can't remember the games.
Yeah.
Because you were so wound up, you didn't want to give a bad pass or whatever. Southampton, being at Southampton, and you go to Pompey, Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And
it's a big derby, that one,
and
isn't it?
all of a sudden you don't remember them, and you're thinking, why didn't I remember the game? It's because you're so wound up. The fans can be wound up, but the players, you've got to
be calm,
keep calm and play it, because how many sending offs do you get, or and everyone thinks, that's great, you're going to fight. No, it's not, because it's about playing the game, not the occasion. And I never played them down, or I didn't intend to play them down. If you ask the players were still up for the game.
Yeah.
It was just that, fans want you to be, show your passion. What was going to do? Run up and down the line and scream when someone gives a bad pass. 30,000 people have seen the bad pass. Why did? Do I need to now show you that I've seen it? And I was playing the game in my head.
Yeah.
And that's why I was. My wife always says to me, "You don't show any emotion." I don't. It's just because it's not that I don't mean to. It's just the way I am. And I don't see why How many managers you see?
Yeah, you don't need to scream.
The game's 0-0 and they're up and they're shouting and then they get a goal scored against them and they go and sit down. I would have thought it was the other way around, So
it's man management.
People want you to be something that, and I never really wanted to. I could have ran up and down, I used to love playing against Neil Warnock.
Yeah,
because he was a nutcase, and you could see him ranting and raving. I'm thinking, what are you doing? And I got on really well with Neil, and everything else. But would I hesitate to knock him out? Yeah, I'd knock him out. No. I used to have a ding dong with him in the tunnels when he was manager of Sheffield United and all that, and Huddersfield. But I just found him to be a nutcase. You'll get some of my expressions. Look at the fella in the opposite dugout, thinking, "What the hell are you doing?" They're ranting and raving, and it's like,
different styles, isn't it? Different styles.
Yeah, there's no right way and there's no wrong way. It's what
does it depend? Do you think it depends on like the collection of players you got? I guess you're just being yourself at the end of the day. But sometimes maybe I can imagine if you got a collection of players that maybe need a bit of a enthusiastic kind of outwardly,
But listen, don't get me wrong. You ask players, I'd start a fight in the dressing room.
Yeah,
just to get them riled. I remember starting, big Welsh player. I remember starting a fight with Blakey.
Ethan Blakey.
When I was at Wolves. I said to him, "Why do you want to fight me? Why don't you fight them out there?" And he chucked his boots and he threw his kit off at me and everything else. And I said to him, "Why are you fighting me?" It's like, it's the opposition you got to fight.
Yeah.
And then he starts putting his gear back. What are you doing? Getting his got no, I'm bringing you off. Get off. But I had, like the likes of Julian Lescott and Paul Butler standing behind me just in case, Blakey wants to have a go. And I remember Blakey saying to me once, so we had this massive big argument. I was calling him lazy this and lazy that, which he had a tendency to do. And that was on a Saturday. Or it was on a Tuesday night, whatever it was. And then came the next game and he comes to see me. He says, "I'm playing." Yeah. We've had a big argument, big fight. Yeah, well, that was then. This is now. You my best centre forward? Yeah. Well, why ain't I going to play you? So play.
Yeah.
And then he'd go out. You get a bit more out of him because, he's thinking I'm not going to pick him, but he was my best centre forward at the time, so why wasn't I going to do that? That was then. I was arguing about that situation.
Yeah.
And the only way you could ever hate me is if you hate my family, and no one was going to do that. So it was always football matters,
Yeah.
So, it doesn't sound like you're quite good at just rolling with it almost, not kind of intentionally trying to manipulate a situation. You were just...
No, so as I said, sometimes I'd start a fight in a dressing room just to get that anger up and I'll show you.
Yeah.
I remember telling Jay Bothroyd once, called them all the lazy things under the sun. Good job, you're not a midfield player because you don't run around. Don't. He says, "You play me in midfield." So I played him at Burnley. He was the best player I'd ever seen. And then the next game, see, you can run.
Yeah.
So it's just how you manage.
That's it.
Yeah.
And when I first went to Cardiff, when you look at the team that I was left with and the team I built the first year, they're all ways and strays.
Yeah.
We had to pick up whatever we could. And I think they won't mind me saying, I picked up gamblers, alcoholics, everything. But what I gave them was a stage to go and prove what good players they were.
Yeah.
And they did, because someone had given them another chance.
Point to prove almost, haven't they?
Yeah, well, you take someone like Jeff Whitley, who had problems with his drink, and now he works for the PFA. He goes around the clubs and he speaks to the youngsters about the pitfalls about it all. And he changed his whole life around. I'd like to think that, we gave him a chance at Cardiff to do that, where other people saying, when you go and sign players and you're doing a recce on them and everything else, I never really took much notice of someone saying to me, "Oh, don't pick him, he's a bad one." Because he might have been a bad one with them, but it doesn't mean he's going to be a bad one with you. Yeah. So it's all about personality. Jay Bothroyd, if you listen to some of the people, what they spoke about Jay, you'd never have signed him. But it's what you think you can get out of him. And if you can't, then you shift them out again.
Yeah.
So you give people, I always believe in giving people an opportunity to show, as long as they were good players. And that's what I did.
Did other managers at the time do a lot of background work on players? Was it a thing?
I don't know. I never really asked, or we did, because anyone we brought into Cardiff at that time, or any club I've been at, I've always done that way, but certainly at Cardiff, any player we brought in, we had to make sure he could play.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
Budget-wise.
when I first went to Cardiff, I mean, what they sold me wasn't in the book. It wasn't even on the front. I can't even say it was on the cover. It wasn't even on the page, never mind anything else, because the day I walked in and then they started selling all the players because they had to. So I knew my remit was
a rebuild job.
And you know, Sam sacked me twice the first week I was there because he wants me to do things that I said, no, I'm not doing. If it had been a younger manager and not been at the clubs I'd been at, I think he'd have bullied you.
Yeah.
When I had to tell him to get lost. And he sacked me. And my wife was coming down to look at properties. That was the first week. When I picked it up, I said, don't bother. I said, he sacked me. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I just called him a stupid old fool. I'm going to leave, like, you know. And Peter Isdale rang me and said, what's happened? I said, he's a freaking idiot, him, like, you know, what's he going on about? And he said, no, come in. And as soon as I walked in the door, and it was also the biggest mistake that Sam could make with me as well, because as soon as I walked in the door, he said to me, you'll do me, boss. You won't say yes to everything I want. So as soon as he said that, I thought, no, I've got you now.
Phil.
So, you know, you manipulate me, I'll manipulate you. Like, so,
That's it.
Yeah.
And Sam was great. You know, I had good times with Sam as well, but
Big character.
he's a big character, but we needed to change the club's outlook. You can't be walking around the pitch inciting the crowd. And I remember him, you know, he said to me one day, I'm going to sit in the dugout, you know. Why? You know, why not? I said, because that's my domain. That's not your domain. You're taking away what I'm trying to do. And I remember I was really angry at Ninian Park one day, and we got him in the room, and I said to Terry Burton, lock that door, because I knew Sam was going to try and come in. And I was having to go to parade, I was berating the players and all that, and Sam was banging on the door. And I said to Terry, if you open that door, I'll sack you, or I'll hit you. You're not opening that door. And once I'd done my bit, then I let Sam in when the players went out. And then he knew, you know, that was the first month or so, then he knew that I wasn't going to be dictated by him. But I think if you were a younger coach, I think he would have done, you know, he could have hurt you more ways than what you wanted. And I just thought the club's persona needs to change. It was all about fighting and scrapping, and, you know, everyone was talking about this and that, and they weren't talking about the football about the football club, and that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Change the outlook of the club, and when you look, when the club started to grow, and we brought in the likes of your Robbie Fowlers and your Jimmy Floyd Hasselbanks, we brought them in to change the club,
Professionalise it, was it a bit? Yeah.
make it more global, and then we started getting invitations from around the world, and we went on tour. You know, to that was through having them. So we knew they were probably past, you know, top level football, but they could still do a job for us and put the club in a different light.
And they're big names, weren't they, as well? Fowler Hasselbank,
Yeah.
well renowned, aren't they? So
Yeah. You know, it was. I met Robbie on holiday.
Yeah.
I was in America, and we went into a restaurant, and he was sitting there, and because one of my daughters is mad Liverpool fan, she said, "There's Robbie over there." So I went across and said hello and asked him what he was doing, and he said he was looking for a club. So I said, "Well, come to ours," and he did. He never played as much, but he had a slight groin problem, which the club sorted out for him. But he propelled the club into a different sphere, really, I thought.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
Jimmy Floyd and people like that. It was good to have, but they were brought there for It wasn't just to play football; it was also to.
Do you think your
Raise
time
the
in Hong
levels.
Kong sort of opened that a little bit up a bit more? Like you're aware of the kind of global marketability of football and players, certain players' names and stuff.
I don't know. I mean, I've always taken into when I was a manager. I wasn't just a manager. I called it the dark side. So once you went in the boardroom, that was the dark side to me. I always took an interest in that.
Right.
So it wasn't just being the football manager. I also took an interest in all the other things that were going on, like the commercial side of it.
Yeah.
How can you make it better as a club? And I think I learned that at Stockport.
Okay.
The chairman there was a guy called Brendan Elwood, and he had this vision to turn little old Stockport into a much bigger club, and we did. We got promoted. We got to the League Cup semi-finals. We got to the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. We got promoted. We then got, on the back of that, we got an Adidas contract. They came in and the club started to grow. We were on TV every week because we were winning games and everyone wanted to be a part of it. So it propelled the club. And the biggest thing he did, like, say, the club shop where they'd had the shop assistants that were supporters for like 50 years of the club, and we loved the club and everything else. He brought in professional people,
right? And
what the professional people did, he knew they would then move on, they'd be headhunted elsewhere. But what they did, they then trained up the girls or the men that had been there for like 20 years supporting the club. So he was teaching them, and it was like a knock-on effect. And you do that with your coaches, and all the youth coaches. You have to have a pathway for them to grow in your club. So I'd spin them round a little bit. So now and again, the senior coaches would go and coach the kids, or you'd bring the junior coaches to come and watch the senior coaches. So you're giving them a belief that there is a pathway through.
Yeah, sometimes.
And if you look at Cardiff, especially Cardiff, you look at the people that are working within the international scene, either as a medic, as a masseuse, the doc. There's so many coaches. You've got 2 or 3 coaches now that coach for the England squad. There was always a pathway, and I never stood in anybody's way. If they found a club or whatever, as long as they never stabbed me in the back or whatever, I didn't mind. If they wanted, their ambition was eventually, if I left the club, then there was somebody behind that could fill in that role. And I hope that's what I left the club. There was a progressive pathway through for all the people that were there. And when I first went to Cardiff, I got rid of all the scouts and everything else. I sacked them all. I was looking around for a goalkeeper, and everyone said to me, can't find a goalkeeper. And there was one that was at Wolves, Henderson. He was a Welsh international. He lived like 200 yards down the road. The scouts couldn't find him.
Do you before signing a player, say the scouts go out, did you watch every single player yourself before signing?
Yeah.
Is that every club you've been at as well?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
I always, people say it's an old way, but I've never ever seen a bad video.
True.
That's true.
Who's going to send you? Who's going to send you the bad video?
No, you're right.
And all you ever see is where the ball is. So you don't see what the other player's doing. When I signed Steve McPhail, I never went to sign Steve McPhail. I went to look at the fullback. I went to look at the Barnsley fullback.
Yeah.
And it was at Walsall, and I went with Peter Ridsdale because he'd been and he knew about the right back. And I'm good friends with the right back now and everything else. Speaking to him, and he's the academy director at Barnsley. And I went to watch him, and I didn't fancy him. I thought he was too small. But I saw the midfield player playing. I thought, Jesus Christ, I've got to have him.
Yeah.
And that was Steve McPhail.
He was good on the ball, wasn't he? Good close control.
Yeah.
He never got the recognition at Cardiff, I felt, that he should have got. Him and Peter Whittingham, because I always remember Peter Whittingham when people used to say to me, he's lazy, he's this, he doesn't tackle. No, he didn't have to tackle. He made the most interceptions. He read the game. And the biggest compliment I'll give them to is don't play him at head tennis.
No,
You ain't going to win, no matter. I always made sure I was on their side. I was on the head tennis. I told Kenny Dalglish to sign Peter Whittingham at Liverpool. And Kenny was manager of Liverpool. I told him, go and sign him. Because he'll be a top player for you. And I think the fans, he grew on them, didn't he? It took him a while. But
For McPhail.
both of them.
Both of them, yeah.
Two left. You wouldn't see two better left footers.
Oh, he had a wonderful left foot, didn't he?
Yeah, both
Absolute
of them
one.
Both of them,
did.
Yeah.
And Witts was like probably more laid back than me. That's what it was. Our conversations were, long because, I remember my fitness guy coming to me and saying, "Look, we've got this new. We've been offered this thing where they put the heart monitors on and everything else, and tell you how far they've run in the game and everything else." And I said, "Well, okay," because we were always looking for new ideas. I was always open to new ideas, and to stop bringing them, because we used to bring them in the following day after a match. But some of them lived in, because of the money and everything else, a lot of them lived in the Midlands, like Percy and Simica and all of that. They all lived in the Midlands. And you couldn't expect them to move everything if they were only on like a 1 or 2 year contract.
Yeah.
So the fitness guy, Alex, said to me, "Look, we can get all these monitors on, and then the following day put the monitors on, see how far they can go and run, and if so, we get rid of all the lactic acid and all the other scientific things that they've got, and then on the Monday we'd come in, they download it, and they come to see me, the doctors, and said, like, "We've got to get Peter Whittingham to hospital." I said, "Why?" He said, "His heart rate's off the chart. It's unbelievable. I've seen anything like it." So I called him in and said to him, "Wits, are you struggling with your heart?" "No." "Like," I said, "I'll be honest," he said, "I put the monitor on my dog."
I wasn't expecting that.
The dog's heart monitor waiting like twice everybody else. It was running about
40 miles an hour,
yeah. And we said to him, he said, "I couldn't be bothered going for a run." He says, "Well, put it on the dog." And that was Wits.
Quality stuff.
So,
The dog checked out after.
Yeah.
And to be fair, at the club, because we didn't have any money, and believe you me, we didn't have any money, we had to be very careful what we brought in. So everything we brought in, we had to make sure played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must have been difficult with some of the stories we've heard about agents. It's not a scam, is it? But it's like pushing players onto clubs that are,
Well, they have a job to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind agents. It didn't bother me. I remember when we signed Jay, and I spent like 3-4 hours with Jay trying to get him to sign for the club. Mm-hmm. And then when we went to sign, his agent, who I know really well, said to me, "Oh, we've got another club for him to go for." I just spent 4 hours with him. Yeah. So I said to Jay, "If you walk out that door, I ain't bringing you back. Even if you come back to me tonight and say, 'Oh, no, I'd rather come to you,' you move out that door, I ain't signing you." So I'm gambling a little bit.
Yeah.
And he signed.
Yeah.
It's like a game of poker in a way.
Yeah.
Calling their bluff.
Yeah, because the club I was at the time, Cardiff, believe you me, listen, we didn't have a pot to pee in. It was ridiculous. But it was no good telling the world, because the players that you have got in your club, it's going to be, "Oh, am I here because there's no money or whatever?" So we had to build it. And that's why when I got rid of the scouts and everything else, we had to make sure the people we were bringing in were good recruiters, because the biggest thing in a football club for a manager is getting your recruitment right. Mm. Yeah. And that's staff-wise as well. And Neil Ardley and Martin Margetson, when they retired, well, why are you going to go and play like in the second division or whatever and get your body boxed to bits when you come in the coaching side? And, Mags came in, was the goalkeeping coach, and then Ards are put in charge of the academy because John, the lad we had, passed away. So, but I wanted players around the kids as well, because what better than being coached by somebody, that you could play and knew a bit. Yeah. They were good coaches. And if you look at Mags,
went on to
and he's with the Welsh squad now, but he was with England and everything else. So they must have been doing something right. And that, I think sometimes clubs don't utilise the players, ex-players that they have enough.
Yeah, definitely.
They're more analysts and analytical, and we're going to get people who've been at university and never kicked a ball in their life. Well, these people, the one thing they do know football.
Yeah.
Do you think there's too much data in football now?
It's a tool. I think some clubs rely on it too much, but it's a tool. It's a good tool to have, but you got to remember it's a tool.
Yeah. Before we get a bit too deep into Cardiff, I just want to go back to Southampton. We've spoken to a few of your ex-players at your time there. We've spoken to James Beattie, Matt Tissier, and Carlton Palmer. So we just wanted to just link in some of those stories about like when you signed them and what are they like as players for you, just to kind of see the other side.
I didn't sign Tiz. Tiz was already there.
Yeah, Tiz was already there. But do you sign James Beattie?
Tiz was God,
Yeah.
How good was he then?
Tiz was, ability-wise, sometimes you had to stop in training and just applaud him.
Right. Okay.
But the problem with Tiz was that he loved McDonald's.
He had a gold card, didn't he? McDonald's gold card, I think he told us.
Even the bus that went past, it used to stop, and the bus driver used to say on the mic, if we're lucky today, we'll see Lagod in here. and I remember the fans asking me once, like, what are we doing? And I said, look, when he's with us, we monitor what he eats, what he does, everything. I said, but when he leaves us, I've got no control over that. Yeah. I even told him we narrowed the stripes on the shirts to make them look thinner. And he asked me, "Did you?" No, I didn't.
Do you think that took a little bit away from maybe where he could have pushed toward? I mean, he's obviously an amazing player. But
I think the biggest mistake Tiz made was not leaving Southampton. I think if he'd have gone on, I mean, he tells me that he had a chance to go to Chelsea. I think. If he'd have gone to, I think he was a big fish in a little pond.
Yeah, he seems to like that though. I think he seems like a guy who likes.
Maybe that's why he didn't move.
Yeah,
maybe he didn't want to be a little fish in the big pond. It's a big, but I don't think he fulfilled the potential that I think other people thought he had.
Right.
And listen,
he should have won a few trophies, I think, shouldn't he? For the level he was playing at and the ability he had. And you should have picked up a few.
And I was the guy who sort of, unfortunately, I was the one who sort of was starting to leave him out.
Yeah, because you were there towards, I wouldn't say the back end of his career, but he was sort of late 20s when he...
It was the back end of his career, yeah. But the problem was, Tiz should have played with the ability he had another 5 years. He should have played, but you can only carry a player for so long. If they're doing the business, you carry them. If they're not, and I played with one like that called Duncan McKenzie. If he was doing the business, you were prepared to do his running. Yeah. If they're not doing the business, then it's hard flog playing with just 10 men all the time. And Tiz, you knew the thing with Tiz is you knew he could produce something that was exceptional. And I'm good friends with him. I still am. I still speak to him and everything else. I think he should have done better than what he did. I think he could have gone on and been a top player. He was a top player, but I mean, like, we're at a bigger club where he would have shown his ability. And there's another player I also think at the same, but I think Jay Bothroyd could have done that as well.
Yeah.
Because Jay had everything you needed for the centre forward, but there's that one cog that stops going round, and no matter what you did, you weren't going to get that cog going. But Southampton for me was when I left, we beat them, you see, in the semi-finals of the quarter-finals of the League Cup. We beat them and beat them well. They were hanging on it. Edgeley Park, and then when we went to their place, they thought because we'd drawn 2-2 at Edgeley, they were just going to batter us. And it was the other way around.
Yeah.
Because I had some really good players at the time at Stockport who all went on to play in the Premiership. But I remember Tiz when the first year I went, and he was saying, Jesus, we thought we were going to just roll you over. He said, but the midfield players I had, you know, your Marsdens and your Bennetts, they all went on and played in the Premiership.
Yeah.
They were good players.
Yeah.
But no, Tiz was... The James Beattie one came around because Beats played with my son at Blackburn.
Yeah, he was telling us we did an interview at Totton with BT, and he told us that's how the signing came about.
Well,
Yeah. Was it Ripley as well?
Yeah, Ripley gave a good glowing reference as well, I think.
Apparently that was his side of the side. But it'd be interesting to hear what your side is like.
yeah. Sometimes you got to listen to players and they do things better than what they should have done. No, how Beats came about was we played Blackburn at the Dell, and we beat Blackburn 2-0, and Kevin Davis scored against them. And the manager at the time, Roy Hodgson, phoned me up after the game and said, would I sell Beattie? Would I sell centre forward? And I said, I can't sell Kevin Davis. They only signed him last year.
Yeah.
And he's like leading goal scorer. So he said, I'll give you $5 million for him. And I went, look, why don't you phone me on Monday? We've got a board meeting. And this was on the Saturday. And I said, phone me on Monday. I said, then I'll be in the boardroom and I'll tell the board and everything else. And we'll see what we can do. So he said, fine. So I spoke to Rupert Lowe, who was the chairman at the time, and the board. And I said, look, they're going to be phoning us. What should we ask for? And Rupert said, I'll leave it up to you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's fine. So Roy rang and he offered me $6.5 million. I said no. And then he said, what do you want? I said, I'll tell you what, give me 7.5 and give me, you got a young lad who we didn't know.
Yeah.
We got a young lad in the reserves called James Beattie, who I knew because he played. My son was playing with him, and I don't think he knew who he was. And he said, "I'll do that deal."
Wow. Okay.
So that's how it came. And then Kevin went to Blackburn and never settled in because of Shearer and Sutton.
Yeah.
Kevin tells me they didn't treat him right and never looked after him. And 18 months later, I had a centre forward called Egil Ostenstad, who was coming out of contract. And I spoke to Suey at, and I said, he said, I fancy the boy that you've got, Ostenstad. And I said, well, I fancy the boy you've got that you don't play, Kevin Davis. So we did a straight swap. So I got him back. But he was out of contract at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So I got him back for nothing.
That's amazing.
Working the system that is, well done.
And then when I said to the board that I'll take $7.5 million for him and James Beattie, and he agreed. He put the phone down. The directors went, oh, had the fingers under the table crossed. Because they thought I was going to say no.
Yeah.
And they paid $750 for him, $750,000, and we got $7.5 million for him. 12 months later.
Incredible.
Wow.
And then we got him back 18 months after that. For now, it's the craziest deal. And I got a phone call off a building society, Halifax Building Society, the manager, asking me to go and work for them. And I said, are you winding me up like some sort of joke? And he went, no. He said that anyone who can get $7.5 million and then 18 months later get something back for nothing, he said, I won't come working for the Halifax Building Society. And that's what it was. So it was probably one of the best deals I've ever done.
Yeah.
At my time. And I've had been lucky in my career to have some good deals that you do and some you miss. But Kevin came back to Southampton. I think he felt more at home
Yeah.
Who was the other one you spoke to? Oh, my midfield player.
Oh, Carlton Palmer.
Carlton,
Palmer,
yeah.
Carlton's first touch was a tackle, was the best. That's right. And his second touch as well. So it was the best way. I brought Carlton in at the time to, a bit like Cardiff, to steady the ship. Because they had quite an aging squad. And I was building a young squad with Kevin Davises and other people that, you know, they sold Man City the left back and everything else, and so I needed some experience, and I'd learned that experience at Stockport. You always needed a good mixture of experience and youth. So Carlton was brought in to sort of steady that, and he did brilliant for us, Carlton.
He was a unit. He didn't stop running, did he? He was a fitness
That's what
freak.
he was. That's what he was, a runner. And I brought in Kevin Richardson, who used to play at Everton and everything else. So he was the ball player. And then we brought in Ripley, who was the runner on the wing. You know, so we had a good mixture of youth. And the biggest thing in football is you got to have legs.
Yeah.
You got to be able to get up the pitch. Not so much now, as long as you can pass. You know, people try and pass the way through, but we had a good mixture of good legs, and Southampton was a great experience for me as a manager, staying in the Premiership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He mentioned that he said he wasn't that fussed to us about coming to Southampton because of the distance, and he used to get a helicopter down. Is that right? He used to bring
David
a helicopter.
Hurst, I think he said.
Well, I signed Ersty, and you can check this. I don't think Ersty had played in his whole career more than 10, 12 consecutive games.
Oh, wow.
Always had an injury.
Yeah, I was going to say, was he quite... Do you have a really bad injury? I can't remember if he...
Well, we brought him in, got him fit, and that season, him and Kevin Davis were unplayable, and Eggle. We went to Liverpool and battered Liverpool. You know, teams
was that 5-2 or something like that?
Yeah, we were unbelievable. We were unplayable. And Hasty never missed a game. Wow. He was fit, he was strong, and he was a top striker.
Good finisher.
Really was top striker. And then he jumped on the back of a moped with the Leeds lad, Batty.
Oh, Dave Batty, yeah.
And fell off. Done his leg. And then tried to tell me he fell down a pothole when he was running. and it really finished his career. And it was quite sad, shame, really, because he'd done so well to get to that level. And he would have stayed at that level for a couple of years. And he was a great finisher, great striker, strong. And the young players learnt a lot off him. But the helicopter one was, they were going to Ascot.
Right,
we were training, and they asked for the day off, and I said no.
Okay.
And the next thing I heard this noise and helicopters landing on the training. And after training, they jumped in that and then went
straight
off.
Right, okay.
Brilliant.
So,
That's on the way, isn't it? Helicopter boys.
Again, you know, people will say, "Oh, you let players do certain things." I only really had 2 rules: don't be late, and mobiles.
Right.
Turn your mobile off. If you're waiting for something, you know, someone's going to phone you, give it to the physio.
Yeah.
You don't need your mobile. I hated mobiles going off in the dining room or whatever. So, you know, some of the lads used to turn the mobiles on when I was talking of someone else, so they get in trouble or whatever. But they were only really rules I had. I used to get the dressing room to sort the rules out. So
police themselves.
Some people might say, "Oh, it was too lax." Normally, the people that would have a go at you were the ones that didn't play.
Yeah.
funny that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, they're the ones who normally congregate. So no, but I've been lucky everywhere I've been. I've done quite well. So
yeah,
it's and Southampton, to keep them in the Premiership
yeah.
on the budget they had and the players that we brought in and the players that they sold so many players for a lot of money. You know, Beats went for 7.5, and we had a centre half, Dean Richards. Remember Big Dean?
Yeah.
Passed away.
Yeah.
And I met him at the airport Manchester Airport. He was flying up to Middlesbrough to sign for Middlesbrough.
Oh, wow.
And I was flying back down to Southampton. I was with my wife, and I went for a coffee, and he was there, and I got talking to him. I said, "Where you going?" He said, "I'm going up to sign for Middlesbrough." I said, I went and bought him a ticket, and I flew him down to Southampton. I'm glad the plane wasn't full, and he flew down to Southampton and he signed for us.
Wow. Brilliant.
And that's how I got Dean Richards.
It's a complete chance meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like a few of these happened, like you mentioned with Robbie Fowler as well. Just a chance meeting.
Yeah, but also the play, like Roger Johnson was going to Swansea.
Wow.
And I found out, and I knew about Roger. We'd watched him a few times, and I can't say kidnapped, but sort of like stopped him from going down to Swansea, and he signed for us.
Yeah.
Glenn Louvens was going somewhere else. So once I found out that they were, going somewhere, we had to move pretty quick.
Is it like a gut feel you had, or just kind of this feels like I need to?
I'd like to think it's good judgment and good feeling. And I think, you see, everyone, the best tool you can have for picking a player are these, your eyes. Go and see them. I went and watched so many players. I think Wilco, Paul Wilkinson, my assistant, he'll tell him, my record is the warm-up. Gone to watch a player and left at the warm-up.
Wow.
Right.
Okay. Just new.
I've done that a few times because I've looked at them and thought, nah, not for me.
Just effort, work rate, or anything?
I don't know. Whether that's your gut feeling, they're not going to play for me.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that I brought, wherever I've been, I've brought in good players.
Yeah.
Another player, Southampton, I want to ask you about just quickly is Mariam Pahars.
Yeah.
He's like, he was called the Latvian Michael Owen, wasn't it?
He's been held in high regard with our guests, hasn't he?
Yeah. He makes all their, when we do a combined best 11, he gets into all of them. Like, how did you come across him? And what was the story of signing Mariam?
I spoke to Mariam last week, funny enough.
Yeah.
Mariam, when I was going through my problems at Southampton and all that, to begin with, and when I did some work for the Latvian FA, because the manager at the time was an Englishman.
Right, okay.
And he told me about this centre forward, so I went across and I watched him, went to Riga, and I watched him a couple of times, and I really liked him, but my problem was just he wasn't the tallest. And I thought, is he going to cut it in the Prem? So we brought him across for a trial, and we played at the training ground, and Rupert, the chairman, come to see him and looked at him and thought, he's a bit small, isn't he? I said, yeah, well, so I'm not convinced, but I said, see how he goes in the game. And for the first 15 minutes, I thought, nah, I've got this one wrong. And then all of a sudden he's gone left foot, right foot, header, scored a hat-trick, and I said, get him off. Get him off. And we took him off and we signed him there and then.
Wow.
And when he got in the car park, Alan Kirbishley was trying to nick him off me.
Oh, really?
If I hadn't signed him that night, Kirbs would have took him.
Charlton, was it?
Yeah. Kirbs would have took him.
Wow.
And I remember him playing at Old Trafford against Yapstam.
Yeah,
And his first move was he nutmegged him.
Oh my God.
And Yapstam couldn't catch him. And then I knew we had a player.
Yeah.
He was a top player.
You got to have some nerve
great
to
lad as
nutmeg.
well.
Yapstam, haven't you? You
No,
got
but
some
he's a
nerve
great
to
lad.
nutmeg him,
But when you look at the team that we built at Southampton, I was quite proud of that, because the team that I took over from when Graham walked out on them were relegation fodder. They were. So again, it was rebuilding, and that's what I like doing. I like building.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a quick fix, I'm not the person. If you want to build something, then yeah, that's what I love doing. And then the players we brought in, your Dean Richards and people like this at the club, and I promoted. We had a a left winger who were put down. I thought, well, he's not very comfortable with his back to play, but going forward he's brilliant. So I moved him to left back. Then they sold him to Man City for 7 or 8 million. And I remember that one of the directors saying he'll never make a full back as long as he's got a hole up his backside. And then they go and get 10 million for him, so it wasn't bad business.
Who was that?
Wayne Bridge.
Okay.
Bridgie. So, Bridgie wasn't sure himself about playing left back.
Really?
But he's probably, with the left foot, I can never ever remember him kicking a ball out of play. He always kept the ball on the island. And very comfortable when everything was in front of him. But he started off as a winger, and I didn't think he was comfortable with his back to play. So I changed him to the full back.
Yeah.
It's like it's Cardiff when we had a goalkeeper, and we moved him to centre forward, and he Irish international now, centre forward.
Josh McGuinness, that is right. Yeah.
That was Wilco. That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
had a hand injury, and we used to play him out, and we thought, he's better than the centre forward we got here. And that's what we did.
That was when I remember seeing this is quite an extreme change, isn't it? It's not going from centre back to right back or midfield to wide midfield, from goalkeeper to striker. That's massive.
He sat on the bench as the number 2 goalkeeper in the cup final.
Yeah,
and now he's
he's
centre forward international.
Yeah.
I think I saw a story with R9. Apparently, as a youngster, he liked playing goalkeeper. I know.
I think Rashford was the same.
Yeah.
I think Rashford started as a keeper.
I don't know, hand-eye foot coordination sort of thing. I don't know.
I think that's just, they're one-offs things. We'll take credit for it. I always used to say to the staff, just take credit. If someone says you got a player there and you turn him into a great player, take credit for it. You also if you take some people are going to be good players. Cardiff, had one when Ramsey, we knew at 15 he was going to be a player. It's just when we pushed him in, and not, he was still growing. So we took him out to youth team football, and I remember his parents saying to him, "He's not playing, but he's training with us. He's training with Robbie Fowler and Hasselbank and people like this, Trevor Sinclair. What players are always saying to me, some player him."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he trained with us. We never played him, and then when we allowed him to play in the youth cup, he was the worst player on the pitch because he was streets ahead. He was thinking way ahead of everyone else. Yeah. So he was top quality, but it was people were saying, "Oh, you should have played him from the start in the cup." He wasn't really, his body needed to grow, and you had to be careful with him because you could do more damage. So it was all about just when we threw him in, and we threw him at Chasetown, and that was his debut.
Was it,
and because we thought it'd be an easier game for him to break into, rather than the league game.
Yeah. When you think about players, obviously part of the show is about what makes a world class player. There's many different kind of levels of football, but when you think of the elite players, what does your definition of a world class player? What would attributes?
An elite.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes, listen, if you're playing a Premiership, you're not a bad player. It's impossible. Fans will say, "Oh, you crap him," or "You can't do it." No, you play more than 10 games in the Premiership, you're a decent player. But the elite players, Messi's and Ronaldo, they're on a different level, even to elite players.
Yeah.
And you normally find them players are dedicated, fitness-wise as well, to go for so long. If you look at someone, Cantona, say, was a fantastic player. But imagine if he'd have really looked after himself, like a Ronaldo or a Messi, and what they would have done. Teddy Sheringham's a great example of that. Never had any pace, but what a player.
Yeah.
He looked after himself. You look at Teddy now, he's probably still playing now, really.
Yeah.
Looking at, but he looks after himself.
Giggsy, another one.
Giggs ran on for years, isn't he?
Yeah.
Beckham, all these, that they're the elite. I think They're the top quality players, and you just know when you. I played with some of them. I played with Everton, who had some top elite players. You just know about them, and then you're an elite player yourself, but they're in a different level.
It's the top 1% of the top 1%.
And that's why at Cardiff, when I was at Cardiff, I wanted to change the style of play. I wanted to bring in a more aggressive way of playing, but also have players that got fans out the seats. I love a maverick. If you look at all the clubs I've been at, I've had a maverick in the side. We say it's the fella with the key to the door. He'll do something that gets everybody. I remember when we brought Cooey back.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, sometimes he was a waste of space in some games, but you always knew he was going to do something that was like, wow. And I love that in a player. I love wingers.
It's the unpredictability of what they're going to do next.
Well, they don't know. No, if you ask someone why'd you do that, they don't know. It's an instinct.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you go and ask Wayne Rooney why did he do the things he did, it's just bump. It's there. It happens. Their brain works differently. You normally find out the nutcases as well, but their brain does work. It's wired differently, and I love people. I remember bringing the winger. Was he at Fulham at the time? Little winger we brought to Cardiff. He went on to play for Swansea.
Wayne Routledge was him.
Yeah. If we'd have kept him, that was the biggest mistake the club made for me, not signing him.
Yeah, he did well at Swansea as well, didn't he?
We'd have got promoted that year with
He's
him.
fantastic, wasn't he?
Yeah. And the problem with Cardiff, I always found, which is the biggest bugbear for me, when we felt we'd got a team that was going to get us promoted, we had to sell the best players. And that was the hit. Yeah. But that's what I signed up for. So I knew that. Your Louvens, your Roger Johnsons and all people like this, and you look at the team that we were building, and then all of a sudden, your Joe Ledleys and your Louvens are going off to Celtic, and not as if they're going to bad clubs, they're going to big clubs, Ramsey's to Arsenal and all that. I just felt that was my biggest bugbear with the club, was that we should have kept the teams together, and we would have done it. And then probably Malky sort of gained from that, because he was able to keep the best players and bring in the players. Yeah, where we always had to sell to survive. We every window we had to make 5-6 million. Yeah. So I always knew, when we sold Chopra, I know Chop said that he didn't want to go.
The Sunderland, was that the Sunderland?
Yeah, he didn't want to go. We were in Portugal on pre-season. We said, you are going, because it means that we all get paid for the next 6 months. Yeah, it was.
Big money move,
And that's what it was. It wasn't anything to do, he wanted to go, he didn't want to go. But we had to sell him to get the money in, to turn the lights on and
pay the wages.
And that was, same with a lot of the others.
One of the things he did say, though, which was quite funny, was he's obviously sold him on to 5 million for Sunderland, and then he said, but then they went and signed Hasselbank and Fowler. But I suppose that's what you got to do, to just keep turning it over, isn't it?
Yeah. I think Chops thinks he was better than Fowler and Hasselbank. He puts himself in that category, and that's nothing wrong in that. Yeah. Chops was brilliant for the club.
Oh yeah,
him and Jay Bothroyd were electric. Yeah, and Jay, when he got his England cap, do you know how that came about?
No. Capello called him up, right?
What we did, every manager before every home game gets a list of all the scouts that have asked to come to the games. Right. So I used to tell my secretary to put Tracy to put on the bottom that the England coach was coming.
Right. Okay.
And then Jay, I always knew Jay was going to look at the list on the table.
Right, okay.
And I'd say, he's come to watch you. I was trying to get him to play better and better. And that season, he was unplayable, if you remember. And he was brilliant, him in Chops. And then all of a sudden, we get the call that he's going to represent England.
Wow.
So he asked, will we all go? And we said, yeah, we're going to go. So all the staff, we all went to see him. And he came on against France the last 12 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. Did he almost have a chance to score?
Yeah, he
It
had
was
half a chance.
off a corner?
Yeah, he had half a chance. And then the following day, we knew Jay would turn in and he'd be on cuckoo land. We just knew we had to pull him back down again. So I remember him coming in, and we used to have breakfast every morning, like, because some of the lads used to do the school run, and we were always in the staff early, so we always made sure that we had the breakfast ready for everyone. And he came in and he sat down, and we knew straight away. He sat at the staff table and he said, what do you think? I said, you did all right. And Terry Burton went, I thought you were magnificent. He said, did you tell? He said, yeah, I thought you were brilliant. And he said, I only got 12 minutes. He said, no. He said, the warm-up, I thought you were brilliant. To bring him back down again. Yeah. Just to make sure, because he thrived on
praise.
Centre of attention. He liked that, didn't he?
Yeah. But he was one that you had to pull back.
Yeah. Was it true? I don't know if it's just Chops just ribbing him, but he said he come in to training in his England gear. Was that true?
Listen, don't believe anything Chops says.
Do you take a bit of credit for that situation? Obviously, running the scout, England, watching the game, and all that.
Well, listen, you take what you can. You know, it's you know, sometimes you'd win like manager of the month or anything else, and it wasn't just me. Of course, it wasn't just me. You know, the one thing I always felt was important was you just didn't build a team on the field; you had to build a team off the field.
Yeah,
that was just as important. And the people I had at Cardiff, and everywhere I've been, you know, lucky that I've had good staff. And sometimes I'd take some of them with me, and other times I wouldn't, because you might be going somewhere where, you know, they might be better than the ones you're leaving behind. So and when I came to Cardiff, I only brought one person with me.
Oh, wow, okay.
I didn't bring anyone else, and that was to have a look at Terry, and I knew Wilco was there, and I knew Terry from his time at Wimbledon when he was manager, and I was at Southampton, so I knew Terry from then. I didn't know what type of coach he was, and I think you've got to give people an opportunity rather than just coming in and clearing everybody out. I don't think that's right. And I hit the road with Terry from day one.
Yeah.
Terry never wanted to be a number one again, but as a number two, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
So that's part one. Dave Jones, thanks for watching. Please do check out part two, coming soon.
Have a world-class weekend.